Are you struggling to get more engagement on LinkedIn? Let's fix it. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 simple fixes you can do to get more engagement on your content. Hi, I'm Dean Seddon, CEO and founder of Maverick. We help you master social selling so you can build your brand, win clients without selling your soul to social media. So we've all known that feeling. We put posts out and we go, why is this post not taking off? What's going on? And maybe you feel like you're posting and you're putting this effort in and your post gets sucked into a black hole and never to be seen again. You're just not getting the engagement you'd expect. Well, I've got 3 things I'm going to share with you in this video that's going to help. So let's get into it. So number 1, we need to make our posts more accessible. You know, a few years ago, you could post pretty much anything on LinkedIn and it would do okay. But as the platform's grown, as it's got more competitive, as people are taking posting on LinkedIn more seriously, it's a bit harder. At the same time, we've got platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and they are influencing how we consume content. The way we consume content today is very different from the way we consume content 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 10 years ago. So we have to adapt to the way people like to consume content right now. And it's short, bite-sized, useful information delivered quickly. But there's one more important thing that's actually helping content become more accessible, more engaging, and that is storytelling. Using stories to land your points. And very often when I scroll through the LinkedIn feed, what I see is people just giving out information. Information doesn't capture our emotions, it doesn't capture our minds, it doesn't create pictures, and so it's not very interesting and it doesn't spark people to respond. When you think about it, comments, likes are emotional reactions to what somebody's read or watched or consumed. And so our content has to create not just land information, it has to create that emotional reaction that prompts people to like or comment or repost. Stories are a great way of doing that. And this doesn't mean writing the next Enid Blyton novel. It means packaging your points into something else that people can relate to, that touches an emotion. So for an example, I did a post recently and talked about how I scroll Netflix. And I feel like I almost spend more time scrolling Netflix looking for something to watch than I actually do spend time watching things on Netflix. And that's a really relatable example. A lot of people would do the same thing. So I packaged up that story, but the message I wanted to land is to help people understand that's what happens on Netflix. That's what happens on LinkedIn too. When people are scrolling, you've got to capture their attention. You've got to get them interested and show them that this is worth watching. So I used a Netflix story to relate my points I wanted to make. And this is when I was a kid, you used to talk about this as object lessons. You take, and I can remember my mum did this. She made like a hot dog out of material. And she used all the different things to explain some lessons. I went to like Sunday school and she used this hot dog to explain some like Christian lessons. And it's the same thing. Content is bite-sized. People want information quickly, but they want it in a way that they can relate to. And the other important thing to remember about stories is when we tell stories to explain our points and land our message, it doesn't just engage the brain, it engages our imagination because we think in pictures. So when I talked about the Netflix story and my experience with Netflix, other people who have that same experience are remembering their own experience and we're connecting over a shared experience. So stories are powerful, but you just have to think, not write War and Peace, but think about how can I explain these points in a story that other people can relate to and connect the two things together. Real simple to do once you know what points you make, and then look for everyday examples that people can relate to package it up. This has been powerful, improving my engagement and deepening my connection with my audience, and it will do the same for you. So take your points, package them in a story. Number 2, is all about creating some quick wins, some value that people can benefit from quickly. And this isn't about giving people overly simplified answers. It's going, how can I, in this post, give them something that they can use or that changes their thinking or motivates them in some way to do something differently? Very often what we do, and I'm guilty of this too, is I try to do too much in one post. And so what I do is I pack that post full of information because I want it to be valuable. And I miss the point that actually just helping people see this one thing and see and use this one thing really well is massive. So giving people in some of your posts some quick wins that they can go away and go, that was really helpful, actually. That was great. That made a difference. Or a reaction that they enjoyed will make them want to come back. Think about your content like a television channel. You just don't want somebody to come and view your post once. You want people to come back. And so you have to help them leave your post with something valuable that they can come back and go, I want another one. I want another episode of that. So quick wins, things that they can do today or things that they gain from it today, not just commentary that's just insightful. You want to help them go away different, thinking differently, with something to do, feeling different. That's massive. So that's like, you could use humor. You could give somebody something very specifically practical they could go and do, or you could help them think about a problem or a challenge in a different way, but they leave your post feeling or thinking or ready to take action doing something differently. So really, it takes a bit of thought, but I'd encourage you to do it because it will improve your engagement, but make it something simple. If you make it too big, they won't do it. And so they won't get that experience of that was good, that was engaging, that was helpful. Number 3 is about calls to action. Now, most people think when I talk about calls to action, I'm talking about putting a link to book a call or buy your thing or anything like that. I'm not talking about calls to action to drive traffic off the platform. I'm talking about using calls to action to create discussion. Most people aren't doing this in their posts, and what they're doing is doing a monologue. So they're doing a monologue post that's not creating the discussion, and then they wonder, why is nobody commenting? So I want to talk about some specific calls to action that you can do to actually improve the number of people commenting on your post. So it's really important that we use questions and ask our audience in the post to actually tell us what they think. But the fatal error of doing this is that we make those questions too broad, or our posts are quite broad. And so what happens is this. I put a question in my post at the end. So what do you think about sales? Tell me in the comments. What do I think about sales? It's such a big question. In the moment of you asking me that, or a post saying, what do you think about sales? In that moment, I'm like, what do I think about sales? What aspect of sales? So what happens is we create a question that actually creates more questions. And by the time, like within seconds, I've gone, I don't think anything. I'm gone. I'm off. I've moved on. So too broad questions will actually force people away. It will make people leave. And what you want to do is prompt people to share their opinions about something specific. You need to invite them to share their opinions. So you have to ask them, what do you think? Have you ever done this thing? But you want to create it specific. So let me give you an example. Yeah, we've used the example of, what do you think about sales? Ooh, big question, right? It's, a lot to think about there. Some people will obviously comment and say, I hate salespeople or whatever. I love this. Oh, right. But if I went, what do you think is the most important trait of a good salesperson? I've given people structure of how to comment. They can form an opinion about that. So giving people calls to action with structure to create a discussion are really helpful. So don't go broad with your calls to action to drive comments. Give people a specific structure to share their opinions on. Open-ended questions often create blank page paralysis, and people go, I can't think. I don't know what I think. Gone. And what we want to do is tap into the opinions people have about something specific so that they feel motivated to share it in the comments. So if I want people to comment on my posts, I'm going to give people a specific thing I want to ask them to comment on. But the other part of this is that if my post has laid out my opinion and I want contradictory opinions, I don't want to just get people agreeing with me. Yes, you're great, you're wonderful. I want to have full-blown discussion because that's what drives it. All content is driven by discussion. If you're holding people's attention and keeping them on your post, it will go everywhere. So I have to give people permission to disagree with me. I have to give people permission to show another alternative view. And that's not a threat to me. That doesn't undermine me. That doesn't damage my credibility. I am just curating the discussion. If people think differently to me, that's cool. We live in a free society. So using your calls to action to give people structure of how to comment, but also giving them permission to disagree will actually help. So these three things will actually improve your engagement massively. Telling stories, giving people quick wins, and giving people permission and structure of how to engage with you will be massive. So I want you this week, your homework is I want you to go and try these three things in your posts. I'm going to put a link to a couple of my posts below that will actually give you a little bit more of guidance on this. So go check those out and come back and tell me how it's done. Comment on this post, comment on the articles I share and tell me how it's done. But also, I'd love to hear from you to know, what are you struggling with on LinkedIn? What are the big challenges you're having? Tell me so I can do more content like this to help you. And if you've liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so that more people see it and you see more videos like this.